And we live. Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to IT Career in Australia channel. And tonight we have another exciting topic. We're going to talk about techies who sell and navigating the world of technical sales. Thank you so much for finding some time to join me this evening. Please don't forget to introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know what you do and join our conversation with your questions and comments. Or as usual, please at least say hi in the comments so that we know that you're here, because obviously if you're not commenting, we don't know that you're listening. So I'm Jana Martins, if you forgot. I'm currently working in IT consultancy, so I'm passionate about learning more about tech industry and obviously sharing it with you on this YouTube channel. So again, tonight we're going to talk about techies who sells, and Andrew is going to share his experience, give us an overview of what tech sales role entails and why technical people may be interested in this area, including and talk about some typical career paths for tech sales. So before I pass it over to Andrew to introduce himself, just as usual, I want to quickly remind you that we're streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. If you miss the stream, no worries. You can always watch the replay by subscribing to my YouTube channel, IT Career in Australia. And I go live there every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time, with various experts from my network and talking about broad range of topics around the IT career, job search, and in and outs of the tech industry in Australia. I also run a face-to-face event that's called Tech Walking. At the moment, we only do Tech Walking in Melbourne. So if you're in Melbourne, please check out my meetup group and let's catch up in person. So anyway, so again, please say hi. Saraf is here saying hi. Andrew and Jana, thank you. So guys, please, I encourage you to say hi in the comments and encourage you to ask as many questions as you like on any platform, but please just stay on the topic. And the most active participants also will receive a special surprise at the end of the stream. So that's probably enough of me. I'm going to pass it to Andrew to introduce himself, please.
Thanks, Jana. It's great to be here, and thanks for having me on the live stream. It's a really interesting topic and one that's I'm quite passionate about. So my name's Andrew McGee. I'm based in Melbourne, and I'm the Senior Director of Solution Architecture at Red Hat for our telco business. So we have a number of solution architects doing tech sales at Red Hat as part of my team. But myself, I've been in the IT industry for about 30 plus years, and a good portion of that, more than half of that, in tech sales. So working for vendors, selling technology to customers, all B2B. Before that, I was a hands-on IT practitioner, working on mainframe back in the early days, and made my way through different infrastructure and hardware platforms such as compute, storage for quite a while with SAN, OSs, virtual machines, Linux, etc., and ended up at Red Hat, so selling containers and Linux and all the good open source stuff that Red Hat does. But I mentioned, tech sales is dear to my heart. It's something I've been managing tech teams for quite a lot of my career, learning a lot always, and helping people along the way. How can we get the most out of our careers? As a leader in tech sales, it's really important for me to see people successful. The measure of my success and my management team's success is the success of our people. So, really excited to talk about it and open to any questions that anyone might have around tech sales.
Perfect, Andrew. You kind of already answered my first question, because my usual first question is why are you here to talk about this topic? So I think you definitely already answered that question. We have a few people saying hi as well. I like the YouTube names. Aushani is saying hello. Rajneesh is saying hi as well. Surab is actually saying, I work in sales, looking forward to get into tech sales. Here we go. Yep. So someone in a different career path, not only techie people here who want to move to tech sales, it's also salespeople who want to move to tech. So
yeah, we can talk about that for sure. Yeah.
I guess before, we will talk about the navigating of the world of tech sales, probably will be good start to actually define what is tech sales and why they different from just the sales in general.
Yeah.
So if you can give us a bit of an overview.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, and that's a great point, right? So we can't just assume everybody knows what tech sales is or everybody is familiar with it. So we'll start at the start. I mean, technical sales is usually working for a vendor, a service provider, or something like that, and owning the technical sale or being responsible for the technical part of the sale that we sell. There's different names, over the years we've changed it. They kind of every now and then reinvent the naming conventions for roles and try to make them sound more fancy. Once upon a time we used to call people SEs, sales engineers, or some people said systems engineers. Then just pre-sales people, solution architects, tech sales is a common one that we hear now. But essentially all these people are working in pre-sales. And what does pre-sales mean? It means part of the sale before the sale is made, right? So that's why the word pre-sales comes into it. And our job in pre-sales is to position a solution or a technology with the customer that's going to meet the customer's goals and understand their requirements. So there's a lot of relationship building. There's a lot of, talking to customers and gathering, figuring out what their business is all about. What are their goals? What are they trying to achieve? And to do that, you often have to build trust. So you do need to do some relationship building there. But then the fun part, if you're technical, is then figuring out how can we build a solution with the technology that I have at my disposal. Maybe the technology in my own organization. It may be some technology that my partners have that we team up, and build that into a solution that meets, our customers' goals.
I like how you,
yeah.
I like that you mentioned that there is like a different names for this as well, because that's usually, especially people who are not working in the industry could be quite confusing. And then also, some technical people actually don't really like the word sales.
Yes.
And if you hear the word sales, like a lot of technical people sometimes say, I don't do sales. Sales, it's not for me. But there is, I guess, some difference. That's why maybe the title solution engineer exists, because there is no sales in that title.
Yeah. We don't want to be the typical sales person, right? We can touch on that in a minute. Actually, when we talk about what we don't do, we'll touch on that, because in some circles, sales can be a dirty word. But I can let you know, in my career in pre-sales and technical sales, it doesn't have to be, right? In technical sales, and this is why I love it, we're usually the trusted people. The sales rep, the account manager, or the AE, sometimes they're seen with a little bit of, this person's just trying to make their number. But the technical seller, they're usually the trusted one. And the customer will often come to the technical salesperson and say, hey, can you tell me how it really works? Because I don't trust that other guy. So and that's like part of the joy. But we'll touch on that in a minute as we kind of talk through it. But you're right. We should differentiate. Usually in a sales organization, there'll be a sales rep, and sometimes they're called an account executive, account manager, something like that. The pre-sales person, or the solution architect, or the technical seller is responsible for the technical part. They're not responsible for the overall sale, right? So they're not carrying a number like the salesperson does. To the same extent. There's a little bit, and we'll touch on that later. But that's the differentiation, right? It's not pure sales, it's technical sales. And often we can go in there with a lot different, more honest kind of attitude, I suppose, than the salesperson who's always looking for an angle, if that makes sense.
We don't want to offend any salespeople here.
Yeah, no, that's right. Who was it? Sorry, mate. I know you're in sales.
But it's just I guess it's a different angle. It's looking on that actual technical solution and solution saying. I think, you also listed the things here that actually some of the activities that related to that technical sales and pre-sales. Maybe if we talk through those, it will give even more like clarity in terms of like what's the actual difference between sales and tech sales.
Yeah, good point. And I did touch on some of them, like, building the strong relationship. So, and one of the things is you'll see the word trusted advisor, right? That comes up a lot in pre-sales and technical sales, because the technical salesperson can become, if you build a really strong relationship with your customer, you get a reputation for doing the right thing, helping them out, solving their problems, fixing their issues. You can become a really trusted person in that organization. And the best pre-sales people, can build that kind of relationship and really help them. Some of the other things, obviously, we do is giving presentations and updates on technology, roadmaps and things, informing the customer what's new, if we have new versions of things or products we've released, gathering requirements. So as I mentioned before, really understanding the customer's business, their goals, where they're going. So there's a lot of what we call discovery process. So going out there and understanding the customer. And again, sometimes you have to build the trust first before the customer really opens up and tells you everything they're trying to do. Qualifying sales opportunities. What this means is from a technical perspective, right? Sometimes a salesperson will come to you, hey, we've got this great opportunity. We want to, take the customer to the moon and back. And we say, whoa, hang on, our technology doesn't do that. And we have to, sometimes pre-sales put the handbrake on things that aren't going to work. And that's what I mean by qualifying, right? We always want to shoot for stuff we can do and do the right thing by the customer. We never want to, try and do something that we just know is not going to work or is not in our wheelhouse. Designing the solutions, demonstrating technology, proof of concepts, running trials and demos. Some companies are bigger on this than others, but, going out to the customer and showing the actual product and the solution. And then the big one, which is, most people don't really enjoy too much, is responding to tenders and RFPs and RFTs and things like that. It can be interesting and it can be technically challenging, but sometimes it's also a lot of work. Companies often go out to tender and they'll put a bid out and say, we're looking for this, and a whole bunch of vendors will respond to that. And so the technical pre-sales person plays a big role in that, right? Because that's solutioning. We've got to figure out, what are we going to put in this response? How are we going to, present that back in a documentation format too, which can be a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. We have a few more people actually saying hi, Andrew. Hi, they're saying hello, Andrew. Specifically to you, Andrew.
Yeah, because I know Pfizer.
so I'm assuming. There you go. So Andrew, I guess before we go more into those details, what about you? Like, why you decided to go to tech sales? What inspired you to move into tech sales?
Well, so two things, and actually it's a kind of a multi-step answer. I was in IT technology as a technology practitioner, an IT practitioner, as I mentioned, doing storage and backup and things like that for various different companies. And when you're in IT, you're often exposed to vendors, right? So we'd meet, the engineers would come out from Hitachi and these other companies whose products we were using. They'd fix things, they'd have a chat, tell us about the latest things. And that gives you a little bit of a taste of working for a vendor. And as a technical person, as an IT person, it's always interesting to get closer to, the bleeding edge, I suppose, what you're looking at. And if you go and work for a vendor, you can get really close. I mean, obviously you're in that vendor's product portfolio, but you can get a lot closer to what's happening, like what's the latest that's coming out, what's on the roadmaps and things like that. So that attracted me to begin with. And I always said, I want to move into a vendor, working for an IT, like a vendor. And doing that as a technical person, obviously an obvious step was moving into tech sales. So I kind of moved into a vendor at some point when I got an opportunity. And we'll talk a little bit about, how you can set yourself up to do those types of things. Some of these jobs are quite coveted, depending on the logo as well. There's harder ones to get into than others. But it's if you've worked with the company's products for a while and become quite familiar with them, it sets you up pretty well to then get poached and take a role at a vendor, right? Like, say if you're a Microsoft person and you've been doing a lot of Microsoft or Azure, or it might be Google or AWS or whatever, that's a good foundation, right, to build the skills necessary to at least get you into the interview kind of process. So I did that, and then, and I did some pre-sales work myself, and then I was a player coach, and then I got into leadership. But I've always tried to stay, in the field as well. So, while I lead teams, I'm always tried to stay switched on and understand the tech. It's harder as you move, into leadership roles. You tend to become a little bit less on the keyboard and more in meetings. But it's still exciting for me, right? And I'm passionate about tech, which I think is an important part as well.
Yeah. I guess, look, I have a lot of questions on that thing, but I think you also have the little slide here that showing the exciting parts of the tech sales and maybe not as exciting. So I guess tell us a little bit more about you, what you really enjoy, and maybe something that you maybe not enjoy as much.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to keep it real, right? Like, I'm not going to try and dress everything up and say it's all peaches and cream, right? Like, everything has pros and cons. And if you're out there thinking about getting into tech sales or thinking about working for a sales organization, a vendor, there's things to consider, right? There's some good sides and bad sides. Obviously, remuneration packages, generally, good vendors, particularly if they're successful, can offer good packages in the industry. And that's, you can make some good money, right? Working in tech sales, particularly for vendors. You're part of the sales team in tech sales. So while you're not a quota carrying salesperson per se, you still get some of those perks and the benefits of being part of the sales teams. You get invited to the entertainment things, and you maybe go to sales kickoffs and the functions and events and stuff. So that's kind of cool. The other thing is there's often a big variety of projects you work on, right? You're not just working with one customer sometimes, or sometimes you might if it's a big customer, but usually it'll be a big enough customer that you get exposed to a lot of different projects and a lot of different technologies. So as a technical person, that's exciting too, right? You're not so stuck just working on one thing. There's always something new coming along to work on. The big kind of sales and the big solutions that we can position with our customers can make a big impact, right? As a technical person, you can, be the person that's really kind of like solving problems for customers and come out the other side of it. If it's a success and we sell it and the customer implements it and the customer's happy, there's a lot of job satisfaction that can come out of that, right? Being involved in that process. I mentioned staying on the bleeding edge, and obviously career progression and recognition are good things. What's less good? You need to take a number. You don't take a full number like a sales rep, but you do need to take some responsibility, and you will have a part of your package at risk. We call it at risk, right? What that means is usually in pre-sales where there's some kind of bonus plan or something like that, a percent of your package, might be 20%, will be part of that bonus plan, and that bonus plan will be based on the sales performance, right? But because of that, that means you have a lot more control over your destiny and have a lot more control over your success. So if you're the type of person that likes to have control and thinks, you can put in the hard work and you can, put your nose to the grindstone and really get stuck in, you can have a lot of success just by building your own success, right? You're still working as part of a team, of course, but compared to an individual contributor in, say, another industry, in an IT job, you do have more control. What's less good? Deadlines, crunches, end of quarter, like we need to make our number. There's a lot of pressure. I mean, you may not necessarily feel the pressure specifically for you as a technical person, but your salespeople around you definitely will. So, that's something that you need to get familiar with and comfortable with. It can be a little bit daunting at first. And the other probably big one is not every product is a winner. Sometimes you have things in the portfolio which aren't a big success, right? And even different versions, right? Sometimes a product can be great and then another version comes out and it's not that great. And so you're a little bit at the mercy of the technology you have to sell in your kit bag. The last one is the ugly. I put on there, right? And we'll touch on. I got to be careful because I know Pfizer's on the call and she's a salesperson, right? So don't. I won't say anything too bad. But occasionally, you get paired up, right? And you need to work with salespeople, and some salespeople can be big personalities. Generally, it attracts people, with that type of those type of attributes. Because they need to be big personalities, they need to be out there, they need to be making a splash with their customers, and so that's generally the types of people you'll be working with. If that's not for you, that can rub you the wrong way. And very occasionally you come across people who, maybe rub a lot of people the wrong way, right? So you have to navigate that world, I guess. You can't be a technical seller and just hide away in a dark corner. You have to be in there, in the thick of it. There's even if you're used to being maybe the loudest person in the room, when you join a sales organization, you may quickly find you're not the loudest person in the room anymore. You're way down, right? There's some big egos. And occasionally you get customers that just don't understand. Oh, why should I buy that? You may think as a technical person, this is absolutely the right solution for you, Mr. Customer. But they just don't get it, right? And that can be frustrating. And you have to know when to walk away, or you have to know when to compromise sometimes. You can't get too strung up or too kind of welded on about a particular solution or a particular technology. You've got to be able to roll with the punches a little bit.
So I hope that gave some
insight.
Yeah. So based on that, I guess quick overview of the some challenges and benefits and exciting things. So do you think that personality plays a big part on choosing if you want to go to tech sales or not? So is it, is it that, I guess, not black and white, but, there is some technical people who just not good at tech sales, and there is some technical people who just by having that more outgoing personality and stuff more will succeed more in tech sales, or it's not as simple?
It's a little bit of both, right? So I think if you have an outgoing personality and you're a people person, you will probably find it a little bit easier. If you're, because that is a part of the job, right? You can't not be working with people, meeting new people, constantly building relationships, trying to, influence people. The thing with tech sales is you need to be technical, but you also need to be influential. It's not good enough just to be a technical genius, but if you have no social skills, you won't get far, right? So you need to kind of be the full package in a way. And we'll touch on this because this is a good kind of way to talk about it. I like to talk about pre-sales as a spectrum, not the spectrum, a spectrum. And on one side is technical. This could, your technical know-how, your experience, how deep you can go into products, or how much you know about a particular technology. And on the other end is like your commercial experience, abilities, aptitude, and things like that, right? And this also includes communication skills, understanding a customer's business, and things like that. If the best pre-sales people are in the middle and they can do both, right? And if you look at that chart where I've drawn the circle in the middle, the even better is expanding both ways, right? So if you can get more technical and make that circle bigger, moving to the left, and you can get more commercial and understand more about how the business works and how things work in your customer's business, then you will be a rock star, right? And that's where the rock star pre-sales people generally are, in that circle somewhere. Because pre-sales is all about taking technology, and yes, we've got to talk to technical people in the customer and explain to them how it works. And when we're talking about networks and things like that, we can get right down in the nitty gritty. But sometimes we've got to talk to the execs as well. Sometimes we've got to talk to the CIO or the CTO, and we're going to explain to those people how this technology is going to solve their business problem. And that's where it gets tricky, right? You've got to translate from a very technical concepts into something that business people or heads of business will understand. and that's the real art, and that's the skill of like the really good pre-sales people can do that translation. They're really good communicators. It doesn't matter, and they can change on the fly. Maybe there's different people in the room now, and more technical people come in and ask questions later, and you've got to be able to switch. So as I said, like people who can kind of span those two worlds are the people who usually do really well.
Faiz is saying, agree about big personalities.
Yeah.
Big smiling face. Here we go. So there's definitely some big personalities in the organization. So coming back to that, technical and commercial, you already mentioned, that you also trying to be close to technical, but sometimes it's hard because you need to be on business side. So how do you, I guess, from your personal experience, how you combine that, learning about technical and staying on top of the technology, and also building the communication skills and understand where business going? So I don't know, it probably will be hard to put percentage on it. Is it like a 50-50, or how do you stay on top of it?
Well, it's probably not 50-50. Generally, you maybe can get away leaning more to the technical side than the business side. And it depends on the organization. Different companies are different, and depending on, the products and the solutions you're selling and the types of customers and what industries you're working in. So if you're in finance and banking or whatever, then obviously you need to know a little bit about finance and banking. You need to know, my customer's a bank, what makes them tick? What are their big no-go areas, right? Like, this is a regulated industry. Maybe they have, big concerns over security or risk and downtime and things like that. So really understanding the customer. I mean, you can do a lot of research online just to get that. But every time, you go out and meet your customer, just get a little bit more information about what they're doing. Just ask them, like, so what keeps you up at night? What's the kind of things? How can I help? That helps you understand their business. But
I think I think there was a slide about it, what you don't need to do as a tech sales. So that's probably a few things on the business side that you actually don't need to worry as much about.
Yeah. And this is, and I put a little very small asterisk down the bottom, right? Because there's always exceptions. Somebody will always go, but hang on a minute, I know this one company where they do this, right? And there'll always be a difference. But yeah, it's good to point out, right? In tech sales, we're not responsible for closing the deal. We're responsible for the technical part of the sale. So that means once we've ticked off with the customer, does this technology do what it needs to, Mr. Customer? Have we proven that it's going to solve your problem? It's going to make you, hit your goals or whatever? Yes. That's kind of our job done, right? Like, we're not there for the pricing. We can win the technical sale, but lose the sale on price, right? I bet that the pricing is done by the account execs and the sales reps and things like that, right? And that's their job, to take that and convince the customer that this is a good deal. Our job is to convince the customer that this technology works, it's proven, it's fit for purpose, it's going to do what we promise it will. The last one I say is never, ever, ever push anything we know that won't work. You hear of stories that people get a little bit desperate, not so much in tech sales, but sales, well, in both sales and tech sales. My advice to anyone getting into this industry is win by doing the right thing by your customers. And sometimes that means you got to walk away from something. You go, well, guess what? We can't do that. The technology doesn't work. What the customer's asking for is not realistic. Of course, you try and guide the customer back to reality, but sometimes it just won't work, right? So you should never be tempted to, let's just sell it anyway. That's always going to come back and end in disaster, right? So that's why I put that under what we don't do. I hope I've kind of made that distinction clear on what the technical side of selling versus the pure sales side, I guess.
So based, I guess, on these, usually, and I just want to, clarify it from perspective. Usually, the people who are in the tech sales and like pre-sales, that's usually technical people who decide to move to sales, and it's not that often. It could be some salespeople who decide to do pre-sales because for them it will be a higher like learning curve because it's still a highly technical role.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen. So we've had people even in the organisations that I've worked that have moved from like an account manager role to a pre-sales role. Usually, it's the more technically minded people, right? Maybe they're technical anyway, and they do on the side a bit of a hobby or whatever. And I have had the other way where we've had technical people in that spectrum that I drew. Maybe they're more on the right-hand side, and they moved more into the sales, and they said, "Oh, you can make more money in pure sales, right? But you have a lot more at risk too, right? So there's, again, it comes down to your mind, your risk reward mindset, right? If you want to move purely into sales, and you're much more of a people person and hold the relationships and do all that kind of stuff, and also I think I didn't mention on what we don't do is do all the commercial contracts and things like that. And some of that stuff can get a little bit monotonous, right? Like doing contracts and things like that. So, but some people do move into there, and I've seen, some people it works out for them, some people not. Some people decide, whoa, this isn't really for me. But probably more interesting is people who are not in a sales organization. Maybe they just work for company X. In IT, so they're technically minded people, and they have a good knack, or they've got some good exposure and experience working on particular technology or particular products, and they want to move to a company that sells those products. That's a good pathway, right? And what I look for when I'm hiring is not really actually their technical ability with the products. I think that gets them the conversation or gets them the seat at the table for the interview. Because most tech companies will have all the training in the world to train people on the products. Red Hat, we have Red Hat University. There's every training course you can imagine on every product we sell, right? So if you're technical and if you have the aptitude and you've got the willingness and motivation to learn, you can learn as much as we can throw at you. So I have no worries about teaching people the product. It's more those other skills. Are you personable? Do you have the aptitude to learn? So you got the technical aptitude, you can handle it. And do you have the attitude to learn? So you want to learn, you got a growth mindset, right? So they're the kind of things I look for more than like how superstar technically you are, because we can train people on that.
Yeah, on the technical knowledge. Harris had like great question. Sales team always sees us as a pessimistic. How do you avoid it?
Well, one way, don't be pessimistic. And actually say to my team too, everybody's always selling, right? Whether we're selling to the customer or whether we're selling internally to other people in our organization, right? We've got to, kind of sell to them and be influencers. Actually, I like using the word, we were talking about sales as a dirty word. Sorry, Pfizer. I like using the word influencer, right? We need to be influential. So we need to be able to influence people in a positive way, right? Like never influence anyone if it's not the right thing to do. But if it is the right thing to do and you honestly believe in your heart, this is the correct solution and this is the way forward, go strong, like influence people very strongly, right? So yeah, I know sales team can sometimes see us as pessimistic. Sometimes this comes through desperation, right? And as I mentioned before, right, some sales teams think, we've got to sell this thing, and they see pre-sales coming in saying, hang on a minute, that's not going to work. You can't connect this and that because there's technical reasons that maybe they don't understand, right? And they're like, but why? You guys are just always, preventing us from success. And it's hard, right? Like sometimes you got to escalate. If you've got a strong pre-sales management team, those people should go into bat and fight for you, right? And say, no, we trust in our technical guys. They're making the call. And if they're making the call that it's not going to work, we need to respect that. Now, on the other hand, as technical people, we also need to have some flexibility. I mean, I have met in my time people in pre-sales that always want to sell the Rolls-Royce solution to every single customer, right? It technically might be fantastic, but it's not the reality, right? And this is where that commercial mindset comes in. You need to understand customers have budgets. They've got limitations. Maybe they want this, but they can't afford that. And we've got to somehow navigate that and and maybe bring them back a little bit and say, well, you could have this, but you could have the Commodore, but you can't have the Rolls Royce. So, and that's, you know, and that's where a bit of nuance in the pre-sales role comes in, right? Like is setting expectations properly with our customers and with our internal sales teams. Good organizations should be able to navigate that.
By saying, please look at the glass half full.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, on that pessimistic note, you know, coming back to Harry's question, sometimes the reality is sometimes it just comes down to the communication skills. You can present the same solution and the solution that doesn't work in a different way, and how you present it back to salesperson explaining it doesn't work, that can already make you look not as pessimistic. So sometimes, you know, it comes down to purely the communication, the words you choose to communicate this, and it takes time to learn these skills as well.
Yeah, and yeah, spot on, Jana. Like it is communication, right? And getting really good at that. And like I said, that influencing part. You know, if you really think this is the right way, then be influential. Deliver your message in a way, right? If you need to go to the sales team or the sales boss even and say, look, this isn't going to work. I know the company really needs this, you know, $1 million deal or whatever. Have an alternative, right? Say, but I've been trying to figure out a way we could do it, and maybe plan B is something we could present or propose to the customer instead, right? Don't just go in and dig the heels in and say, no, no, no. Then you will get people's back up, right? And it's all about the delivery, how you present it and dress it up. Good pre-sales people can deliver stuff, right? And pitch. You know, if you can do a pitch to people internally, convince them of the right way forward. I know it's easy for us to sit here and say that sometimes. You know, the universe operates a little bit differently, but yeah.
I think for the tech sales, it's very important to explain clearly to a sales lead why something won't work.
Yeah.
In a business way, I guess.
Yeah, in a business way, that's right. Because sometimes you can't get down into the nuts and bolts without telling someone to go and do 3 months worth of training before they'll understand the answer. But you're right. I mean, don't just say, no, it's not going to work. Explain why, right? Like, well, there's technical reasons and then they're fundamental and we can't change them or whatever. And also, like I said, be flexible. Maybe you do need to think outside the box. Maybe, you know, there's some component of your solution that we could go to a partner and use their product or something like that. So I think, and this is what my point that I made earlier on is, like, always be flexible. Never say, oh, that's my baby. I've been working on this solution for, you know, a month and now it's not going to work. You always have to know when to let go or when to change something out and, you know, switch it. Roll with the punches, you know.
We have another question coming in from Rajneesh. He's asking, you talked about attitude and growth minds, and it's so hard to find people with the technical skills as well with the confidence, attitude, and growth mindset. You get one or the other. Is pre-sales a solution?
Is it a solution to find people with both of those things? Maybe. As I mentioned, like, you know, technical skills are one thing. You know, you want people who are skilled, but at the same time, my priority when hiring is other things I look for. Team fit. Is someone going to fit in with the team, right? So the last thing you want to do is you could hire a technical genius, but if they don't fit with the team and they rock the boat and disrupt everything, that's going to be a disaster. So I look for people who are going to fit in with the team. Are they a team player? Will they get along? You know, if I've got a person who knows this and this other person knows something different, that's a good thing, right? Maybe that they balance out. The other things I look for is, as I mentioned, what's their aptitude and their attitude, right? So if they're technically minded, and even if they haven't done our stuff, but they can demonstrate that they've done other things that are at the same depth, then I can make an assessment. Okay, this person obviously has the technical aptitude to be able to handle learning new things. If they can demonstrate that they learn a lot, they've been very proactive about doing certifications or going online and doing their own training and their own enablement, that shows me that this person is a learner and they like learning. The other thing I look for, probably didn't mention, is passion. So in technical sales, it's very second last one, right? So is being passionate. So, and the reason I say this, I know for me personally, I could never go out and sell something I didn't believe in myself, right? I'm not, I couldn't make it up, right? I have to actually believe in the products or the technology and be passionate about it and think, yeah, this is really cool. I know what it does and I know how it can help people. So if you're considering joining a company or you're going to get into technical sales, also consider, do you really believe in this thing? Because I can tell you it's going to be very hard for you to go out and stand in front of a customer and look them in the eye and tell them this is great when you don't really believe it in your heart, right? So if you do, selling is easy, right? It's easy. If you really believe that product is awesome, it's a no-brainer, right? And that's where the passion comes in. You can tell people get excited about the new version of something that's coming out or the technology. If you go home and tinker on the weekends outside of your 9 to 5 with this particular technology, that means it's your thing, right? And going to work is going to be really easy for you, and talking to other customers, which is what pre-sales is about, getting them excited about the technology as well, and doing that influencing. That's half of the battle of the job done there, right? Is that passion. So I look for that in hiring. And then, as I said, the technical stuff, I'll send someone on, as many training courses as we need to get them up to speed on the particular products or the technology. If I can see they're a good presenter, they present well, they're articulate, they communicate, they've got a track record of relationship building, a track record of learning, and a track record of depth in technology. Those are the tick boxes, right? And then the other part, the technical training is, we can sort that out. It's very rare that you'll hire someone that ticks every single box, but there's some kind of key ones that you want to tick straight away. And that's the right aptitude and attitude and team fit and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also about that attitude towards the sales. Then the people say oh, I don't like selling. But it's also understanding that we sell in our life every day. We sell to our children, we sell to our partner. We're convincing your child to eat that broccoli. It's a sales.
So, yeah, that's right. I think I had it in my last slide even. If you think, oh, but I've never done sales, I'm pretty sure you can look through your career. Have you ever had to stand in front of your boss and ask him for something? That's selling, right? Have you ever had to get in front of the team and try and convince people to decide on one thing or another? That's selling, or even at home or in any part of our life, right? And again, that's why I like using the word influencing more, right? Be influential. We're not doing the hard sell. You don't have to be the used car salesperson, right? Trying to convince someone to buy an old clunker. All we're doing is taking the thing that we firmly believe is the right course of action and trying to convince other people that of our cause. Again, I hold a very high ethical bar when it comes to sales. Sales doesn't have to be dirty. You can do it very positively. And as I mentioned in tech sales, we often are seen as we get lots of mails from our customers saying, we love this person or that person or whatever. We had an issue and they stayed out all night trying to help us fix it, et cetera, et cetera. You can be like the rock stars in tech sales, and the customers love you. Like if you're honest and you do the right thing and the customer can see that you're honestly trying to work for them, helping them with technology, it can be a win-win. You win as a company because we sell our products, but also the customer wins. So, it doesn't have to be, kind of a slight on it, right? It's all how you approach it. It's all how you approach it.
Yeah, definitely. And Andrew, I think the one thing that we definitely want to still talk about, I'm just cautious about the time, but would be good to give people, I think we already mentioned a few things, but also to give people maybe a few more tips around how to actually transition to sales. So where someone can start if they being in a technical role, they're thinking maybe pre-sales could be an interesting career transition. So what would be a good place to start to make this transition?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, knowing a little bit about a vendor's products, if you target, for instance, might be a big tech company that sells particular products and you use those products and you have some understanding of it, that's a big start. And that sometimes will get you, to the interview table or get your foot in the door if there's open positions and roles. The biggest, things that I had to learn moving into a sales organization was basic finance stuff. And it's not because I really 100% needed to know it for my role. It's just that everybody was talking about this thing and, and using the lingo and the jargon, and my head was spinning. I was like, oh, I feel like so much of an outsider here, right? So I think if you make it easy on yourself, or even if you get accepted for a tech sales role and you've never been in a sales organization before, just go and do some searching and just learn the basics: revenue, margin, profits, bookings, that kind of thing. You don't have to go and do a full-on finance course, but just understanding the terms and the terminology. Just look on Wikipedia or something. That'll help you understand some
probably
sales.
if you sell to startups, you also probably want to look at like crowdfundings and
well, yeah, that's right,
different investment and what they're doing, because you probably need to kind of suss it out a little bit of the budget as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, funding rounds, what it means, all of that kind of stuff. And again, you may not need to know it 100% for your job, but it's just going to make your life easier understanding some of that stuff, right? How the machinery operates. And that's the same with sales fundamentals, right? So you're not a bag carrying salesperson per se, but and you won't probably have to do forecasting as a pre-sales person, but understanding the forecasting is a good thing to know, right? So understand what your sales colleagues have to do every quarter when they talk to or every week when they talk to their bosses and say, this is what we think we're going to get. What's our pipeline and things like that. So understanding some of those fundamentals, again, it's easily searchable. You can watch YouTubes and things on that. I mentioned selling, right? Take note when you do selling at work or anywhere, internally with your friends or, hobbies and things like that. Take a note of it. How are you doing it? Maybe have some practice. Use it as a chance to, kind of see what goes down well. Is there a different way that I can approach explaining things to people? Obviously, understanding your industry and your domain. So staying on top of what's happening. If you're in banking and finance, keep abreast of what's happening. Maybe there's laws changing, things like that, because that will help you to understand your customers better. And even in the interview process, right? If you can explain, oh, I know these customers and I know what they're doing, and I heard that they just made a big acquisition recently or something like that, demonstrates to the people who are hiring that you're kind of on top of it, right? And you understand the market and the domain. And I think I mentioned the last one, which is choose a technology which you're passionate about. This makes it so much easier, right? If you're an open source person or a Linux person or something like that, aim to move, navigate to a company where you're selling something that you can't always get it spot on, but you can get something related or a side technology even, and that'll be way better than just randomly having to go out and sell something that doesn't float your boat.
Yeah. So Pfizer has a comment. Sometimes people find it more comfortable to answer questions rather than putting themselves out there in front of the customer and talk. I guess, what about that, public speaking and presenting piece? How important it is for moving to tech sales? A lot of people do some sort of presentations in a technical role as well, but if you're in front of customers, it's a bit of a different level. So how do you check those skills when you hire for pre-sales?
So usually in the way I run interview processes, we may have a panel interview at some point. So there's multiple interviews, right? So and usually one of the last ones will be a panel interview, and that will be a presentation. So we'll give the candidate a scenario. It's a role play, right? Imagine you're a pre-sales person. You have to go out to company X and tell them X, Y, Z. And they'll have to present. So that's how we can assess. And it's not really testing them on the content, because we know they're not really going to know our stuff. But it's testing them. How do they operate under pressure? Can they communicate well? I mean, I've seen people who interview really excellent all the way through every interview process. Their CV looks fantastic, everything. And they get to the presentation part and they just collapse. And they're just, like that. Maybe they haven't had enough practice or something or whatever. And that can be a real, I thought this person was really good up to this point. So, and it's not that, there's nothing wrong with that, because I get it. Not everybody's done it. But it is a part of the job, and it is something that people will be looking for. And I don't like to say presentation; it's communication skills, which includes presenting, but it also means maybe it's a whiteboard, maybe it's having a coffee with a customer, right, and explaining to them over a coffee. Whatever method you choose, whether it's verbally, visually, written down in an RFT response or whatever, your communication across all of those different mediums needs to be really good, because that's selling, right, is communicating to people and influencing.
Yeah. Makes sense. Andrew, I'm cautious about the time. We at the 50 minutes mark of our stream, guys. If you have some last question for Andrew, you probably still have a chance to put it in the comments. Andrew, let's summarize our today's discussion. I would be curious on kind of your opinion. Who would you, I don't know, so who would you recommend to move to tech sales? Yeah. So there's a lot of, I guess, techie people out there. They, passionate about technology. I think at which point you would think that someone needs to think about, okay, maybe I should move to tech sales. what that light bulb moment? I don't know.
Well, it's look, there's no one kind of unique persona, right, that you say these types of people must move, but it's more like if you have a couple of key things. If you're a go-getter, you like the hustle, you like to and you want to progress your career, and you're willing to put in the work and the hard effort and move fast. If you're the kind of person that just wants an easy life and you want to kick back and just go to your office job, it's probably not the role for you, right? We're constantly going out to customers and doing webinars and in the office and out of the office and at the customer site. So you need to enjoy that part of it, right? Some people love that because it gets you out. You're not just stuck at a desk 9 to 5 all days. So people who enjoy that, I would say, yep. People who are technical and maybe, you will move off the tools a little bit, right? So if today you're maybe, kind of running infrastructure, or you're a Windows admin or a Linux guy or something like that, you won't be doing that anymore. You won't be kind of logging on every day and checking things. You'll do a lot more working off documentation and PowerPoints and things like that. Doesn't mean you won't do that at all. It just means you'll have to be willing to step away from that a little bit. But you'll have much more variety in your role. So if you're looking to really open it up and kind of spread around and be solutioning and solving problems for people, changing all the time, right? 1 month you're working on this, the next month you're working on with a different customer on something completely different. That's the kind of thing that, if that floats your boat, I'd consider it. And again, remuneration wise, package wise, and things like that is often a lot better too, right? So if you're motivated by money and you feel like you want to take destiny a little bit more into your own hands, that's a little bit scary. Some people, and I get it, it's not for everybody, but some people like that thought, right? Like, wow, I could really kind of go out there and see what I can do. Yeah.
No, I think it makes total sense, and I think today you definitely gave the great overview for someone who maybe been thinking about it, but not sure if it's a right move for their career. So I believe it's been a great overview of what is tech sales and what skills do you need and how you can at least start thinking about moving towards that career. So Andrew, I'm gonna announce the speaker for next week, and you're gonna choose the winner for today's giveaway. So the giveaway, as usual, is a virtual coffee chat with our speaker. So today with Andrew. So while I'm gonna do the announcement, Andrew, you can scroll through the comments and pick someone for that chat. So next week, it's 29th of November. Next week, I'm gonna speak with Renzo, and we're gonna talk about building high-performing technology leadership teams. So Renzo going to talk about team structures, about some hiring process and how to match people in a leadership team to deliver the great results. So make sure to tune in to mine Renzo conversation next Wednesday on the 29th of November. Andrew, did you have a chance to pick the winner for today?
Yeah, well, sorry, Pfizer, I'm not going to choose you because you get free copies with me anyway. But I think it would have to be Sorab because he made a few interesting.
Come in, Saurabh. No brainer. Here we go, Saurabh. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you're not connected on LinkedIn yet, make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'll make sure to, and I make sure that you book the virtual coffee chat with Andrew and can ask him all the additional questions that maybe you haven't had the chance to answer on this, ask on the stream. And also, here's a few ways that how you connect with Andrew. Obviously, LinkedIn and email looks like the most obvious ones, but there's a few interesting ones there.
Yeah, if you want to practice your Chinese, get me on WeChat. But no, LinkedIn's probably the most active one I'm on.
I don't even know all the signs. That's definitely a few. Is it Instagram as well? Here we go.
Instagram. Threads is the one that Facebook set up to try and compete
What
with.
about TikTok, Andrew? No TikTok?
I am on TikTok. I don't really post anything.
Here we go. You covered all your digital real estate. Perfect. Yeah. That's the way. Thank you, Andrew, so much for today's discussion. Thank you, everyone who've been listening to us. Please make sure to like this video. Obviously, subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to do that. And share this video with everyone who need to hear this, especially if it's someone who's thinking about moving into tech sales. And Andrew, just to put you in a spot at the end of our stream, can you please share some inspirational quote, or it doesn't need to be a quote, but something inspirational that some quote or sentence that you live your life by, or anything like that?
I would say always choose the middle path, right? There's extremes to everything, but sometimes you can find a path through the middle which keeps everybody happy. Look for that.
Yeah, no extremes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what we were talking about, not the spectrum, just on a spectrum.
Yeah.
So don't go to the spectrum. Saurabh saying, thank Jan and Andrew for organizing this. I'll be happy to be in touch. Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Andrew, again. And I'll see everyone next week.
Thanks, Yana.